I'm John White, and from the mailbag, we have 3 emails that have come in. And the first one is, Dear Southwest Yard and Garden, I have a poinsettia that bloomed beautifully this past Christmas and still have it in the house. And I want to see what I need to do with it to keep it blooming and be able to bloom it every year. And this is signed from Ed in Las Cruces. And here we have a poinsettia, sample poinsettia, but poinsettias, especially some of the newer varieties, do want to just kind of keep blooming. And actually, it's not a bloom; it's just the coloration of the bracts and the flowers on the interior in the little center part. So these are actually just colorful bracts. And with some of the older varieties, you used to just withhold the water and kind of let them defoliate and drop, and then you take them off and cut them back and replant them, and then they come back. And some of the newer ones just want to keep coming on. So you can, once our temperatures get warm enough outside, you can go ahead and take these outside and place them in a garden area. You can keep them in the pot in the ground, and that way you can pull them back out of the ground, kind of double pot them. You can put a pot in the ground, then put this in it. It will dry out faster in the pot, but again, if they get adequate sunlight, they will go through the season. And as we get into September, we'd like to bring the plant in and subject it to where it gets covered in darkness in a closet, and then treated with light so that you get a coloration start to form on the bracts again, so it will bloom next year. So again, yes, you can keep them, withhold the fertilizer a little bit, but go ahead and take the plant out after frost, so that will work. Another email we got was, Dear Southwest Yard and Garden, I have a ligustrum hedge in the back of my yard, and ligustrum has developed a disease on the leaves of it, some little white spotting on it. Is this powdery mildew? And this is from John in Las Cruces. And what I think John is talking about is here's a sample of a ligustrum that develops these little etched, I guess you could call them spots, discolorations on the leaf. They're actually little sunken areas on the leaf, and this is fairly common on ligustrums, I know, here in the southern part of the state. And as the ligustrum puts out new growth, the new growth is very clean and nice, whereas the older growth has these spots on it. And sometimes it's just weaker branches that seem to develop more of them, but it has something to do with the cold weather during the winter and lack of nitrogen. So you may want to look at your feeding schedule, make sure the shrub is being fed on a regular basis with a nitrogen type fertilizer, and then also the damage during the winter you can't do much about, but these will fall off as they age and the newer ones come on, so wouldn't worry too much about it, but I would try and get that plant a little healthier as far as the fertilizer. Okay, our third letter in the mailbag is, Dear Southwest Yard and Garden, I have a pecan tree that has a full crop on it. Some of the pecans in it, when you crack them open, are hollow. Others have full kernel meat in them. And then ones that have hollow, what is causing this? I try to take care of my pecans as good as I can, fertilizing and watering them. And this is signed Gloria in Mesilla. And with pecans, you can usually figure on about 10% of the crop to be what we call pops. And so they may be just completely without any kernel development at all inside of them. Sometimes the shuck will stick to them, like this one here, and you can tell that it's quite light inside. So this one did not develop. This one also is very light, but still has the shuck around it. And this, again, 10% of them is kind of normal on a pecan. So if you have a very large crop, you're going to have a lot of these pops on the tree. So heavy crop, a lot of pops. So if you just kind of remember that, and that's really pretty much normal. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you have some pecans that have some holes in them, if they're jagged like this is usually a bird peck. A bird is pecked his way in to find some of the kernel. If you're finding any perfectly round holes in actually the shell of the pecan, then you need to let your local county extension office know about it, because that could be the pecan weevil, and we're hoping to keep that out of our area. But you can see pecans this time of year should probably be already put up in your freezer and shouldn't be out on the ground. So when they're out on the ground, they do dry up, they'll turn rancid, a lot of things will happen to them. So you do need to get those picked up as quickly as possible. So again, just pecans do need a regular fertilizing with a high nitrogen fertilizer. They do need a zinc spray, so we do want to put the zinc spray on at least 4 times a year in the spring, starting at bud break, and then be sure and keep the tree watered. And it's going to need deep waterings way out beyond the drip line of the tree. And if you do that, you should end up with a pretty good crop. So hopefully that'll answer your questions.